Rain pounded the pavement as Maya Thompson clutched her umbrella, rushing toward the subway entrance. But something made her stop dead in her tracks. A man sat huddled against the brick wall, soaked to the bone, his clothes torn and dirty. What she didn't know was that this homeless man owned half the buildings on this very street. The cardboard sign beside him read, "Hungry. Anything helps. God bless." Maya's heart clenched. She'd walked the same route to her job at the local community center for 3 years, but she'd never seen him before. "Excuse me," she said softly, crouching down. "Are you okay?" The man looked up, and Maya gasped. Despite the grime on his face, his eyes were the most striking shade of green she'd ever seen. There was something else too, an intelligence that seemed different. "I'm fine, miss," he replied, his voice rough but strangely refined. "Just trying to get by." What Maya didn't know was that Marcus Wellington III was worth $230 million. And this elaborate charade? It was all part of a plan that would change both their lives forever. Marcus had grown up surrounded by fortune hunters and fake smiles. Every woman who'd ever claimed to love him had dollar signs in her eyes. At 35, he was tired of wondering if anyone could love him for who he really was, not what he owned. "When did you last eat?" Maya asked, genuine concern flooding her voice. "Yesterday, maybe the day before." The lie came easily now. He'd been living this double life for 2 months, sleeping in a luxury penthouse by night, playing homeless by day. Maya's eyes filled with tears. Without hesitation, she opened her purse. "Here's $40. There's a diner 2 blocks down. They serve breakfast all day." Marcus stared at the crumpled bills. When was the last time someone had shown him kindness without expecting anything in return? His throat tightened with unexpected emotion. "I can't take this," he whispered. "Please," Maya insisted. "My name is Maya. What's yours?" "Mark," he said quickly, using the alias he'd practiced. "Mark Johnson." As Maya smiled and pressed the money into his hands, Marcus felt something he'd never experienced before. But just then, his phone buzzed in his hidden pocket, a call from his assistant about a billion-dollar merger. His blood ran cold. If Maya discovered who he really was right now, everything would be ruined. 3 weeks later, Maya had made it her mission to check on Mark every morning. She brought him coffee, sandwiches, and something far more precious, genuine conversation. "You speak so well," she observed one morning, sitting beside him on the sidewalk despite her clean work clothes. "Were you in school before this happened?" Marcus's heart raced. His Harvard MBA felt like a lifetime ago. "I read a lot," he said simply. "Library's free." Maya nodded, but her intelligent brown eyes studied him carefully. She was starting to notice things. The way he held himself. His perfect teeth. The fact that he never smelled as bad as someone living on the streets should. "Mark, can I ask you something personal?" His pulse quickened. "Sure. What happened to your family? How did you end up here?" The question hit him like a punch. In his real life, his parents had died in a car crash when he was 25, leaving him their empire. The loneliness had been suffocating ever since. "Lost them young," he said, his voice cracking with real emotion. "Been alone ever since." Maya's hand found his, and the touch sent electricity through his entire body. "You're not alone anymore, Mark. I promise you that." As days turned into weeks, Marcus found himself living for these morning encounters. Maya would tell him about her work at the community center, helping underprivileged kids. Her passion, her kindness, her genuine heart, it was everything he'd been searching for. But the lies were eating him alive. One morning, Maya arrived looking upset. "I have bad news, Mark. The city's doing a sweep of this area next week. They're moving everyone along." Marcus felt panic rise in his chest. He couldn't lose her. Not now. Not when he was falling so deeply in love that it physically hurt. "There's something I need to tell you," he began, his voice shaking. But before he could confess, Maya's phone rang. She answered quickly, and her face went pale. What? Are you sure? Marcus Wellington? The millionaire. She looked directly at Mark as she spoke, her eyes widening in shock. Marcus felt his world crashing down. Someone had seen them together. Someone had figured it out. Maya, I can explain, he started to say. But she was already backing away, her face a mixture of confusion and betrayal. Who are you really? Just then, a black limousine pulled up to the curb and Marcus's worst nightmare became reality. The limousine door opened, and out stepped James Morrison, Marcus's personal assistant, in a $3,000 suit. Sir, we have a problem. The board meeting was moved up. You need to, he stopped mid-sentence, seeing Maya standing there in shock. Sir? Maya whispered, staring between Marcus and the well-dressed man. Mark, what is he talking about? Marcus slowly stood up, his carefully maintained disguise crumbling in real time. There was no point in lying anymore. Maya, please let me explain. Explain what? That you've been lying to me for a month? That you're not homeless? Her voice was rising, attracting stares from passers-by. Who are you? James stepped forward nervously. Ma'am, this is Marcus Wellington III, CEO of Wellington Enterprises. One of the wealthiest men in the country. The color drained from Maya's face. Wealthy? You're rich. Maya, please. I gave you my last $40, she screamed, tears streaming down her face. I bought you food when I was eating ramen for dinner. I worried about you sleeping in the cold while you were probably in some mansion. Marcus reached for her, but she jerked away. Don't you dare touch me. It wasn't about the money. Marcus pleaded. I wanted someone to love me for who I am, not what I have. So you lied to me? You made me feel sorry for you? You let me worry sick about you every single night. I fell in love with you, Maya. For the first time in my life, someone cared about me without wanting anything in return. Maya laughed bitterly. Love? You don't even know what love is. Love is built on trust, Marcus. Love is honest. What we had was built on lies. She started walking away, but Marcus followed desperately. Maya, wait. Give me a chance to make this right. Make it right? How? By buying me off? By throwing money at the problem. She spun around, her eyes blazing with hurt and anger. You think because you're rich, you can just manipulate people's emotions? Play with their hearts like it's a game. That's not, Marcus's voice broke. Maya, you're the first person who's ever seen me. Really seen me. Not my money, not my status. Just me. But it wasn't you, she sobbed. It was all an act. The man I fell in love with doesn't even exist. Those words hit Marcus like a physical blow. She was right. The man sitting on that sidewalk, the vulnerable soul she'd comforted, that was the real him. Stripped of pretense, desperate for genuine connection. But she couldn't see that now through her pain. Maya rushed toward the subway, Marcus following despite James calling after him about urgent meetings and million-dollar deals. Maya, please, he called out, pushing through the crowd. Let me prove to you that my feelings are real. She didn't slow down. At the subway entrance, she finally turned back, tears making tracks through her makeup. Prove it? How can you prove anything when everything you told me was a lie? Your name, your situation, your entire life story. My parents died when I was 25, Marcus said, his voice raw with emotion. That part was true. I've been alone ever since, surrounded by people who only want my money. I've never had a real relationship, never been loved for who I am. When I met you, for the first time in my life, I felt human. Maya's expression softened slightly, but the hurt was still there. So you decided to play dress up? To pretend to be poor so you could test me. Yes, he admitted, the word coming out like a confession. And it was wrong. It was selfish and cruel, and I hurt the only person who ever mattered to me. Maya wiped her eyes, her voice becoming steady and cold. I work with people who are genuinely struggling every day, Marcus. People who would give anything for a fraction of what you have. And you mocked that. You mocked their pain. I never meant. I don't care what you meant. She took a deep breath. Need time to think. Don't contact me. Don't come looking for me. And definitely don't send your people to find me. Maya, please. If you truly care about me, you'll respect my wishes and leave me alone. She disappeared down the subway steps, leaving Marcus standing there in his fake homeless clothes, feeling more lost and alone than he ever had in his life. James approached cautiously. Sir? The board meeting. Marcus looked at his assistant with hollow eyes. Cancel it. Sir, the merger. Cancel everything, James. Everything. 1 month later, Marcus hadn't left his penthouse in weeks. He'd lost 15 pounds, barely sleeping, replaying every moment with Maya in his mind. The business ran itself while he spiraled into a depression deeper than anything money could fix. Then James brought him something that changed everything. Sir, you need to see this. He handed Marcus a newspaper clipping. The headline read, Local Community Center Faces Closure Due to Funding Cuts. Below was a photo of Maya, standing in front of the building where she worked, surrounded by children who depended on the center's programs. She's been fighting to save it for months, James said quietly. Working 18-hour days, organizing fundraisers, trying to raise $500,000 to keep it open. Marcus stared at the photo of Maya's exhausted but determined face, surrounded by kids who looked at her with pure adoration. This was who she was. This was why he'd fallen in love with her. James, Marcus said, his voice stronger than it had been in weeks. I need you to set up an anonymous donation. $5 million. Sir? Make it untraceable. She can never know it came from me. Sir, with respect, throwing money at this won't win her back. Marcus looked at him sharply. This isn't about winning her back. It's about doing what's right. It's about protecting something she loves, the way she protected someone she thought needed help. But as James left to arrange the donation, Marcus realized something that made his heart race. There was one more thing he could do. Something that would show Maya who he really was, not through words or money, but through actions. Something that would risk everything he'd built, but prove that his love for her was the most real thing in his life. The next morning, Marcus made a decision that would shock the business world and change both their lives forever. He picked up his phone and made a call that would either destroy him or finally set him free. James, I need you to prepare a press release. I'm giving it all away. Sir? All of it. The fortune, the company, everything. I want to start over. And I want to start with the truth. As Marcus prepared to sacrifice his entire empire for love, Maya was about to discover that sometimes the most broken hearts hide the most beautiful souls. 2 days later, Maya was rushing to work when she saw something that made her stop dead in her tracks. The same street corner where she'd first met Mark was now occupied by a different homeless man. But hanging from the nearby lamppost was a small, weathered sign that read, Mark was here. He mattered. Her heart clenched with unexpected emotion. Despite everything, despite the lies and betrayal, she found herself missing him. Missing their morning conversations. Missing the way his eyes lit up when she brought him coffee. At the community center, Maya was drowning in paperwork, trying to figure out how to save the place that had become her life's work. The kids were counting on her, and she was failing them. Miss Maya. 7-year-old Tyler ran up to her, his face beaming with excitement. Did you hear? Someone gave us enough money to stay open forever. Maya's heart stopped. What? Her supervisor, Janet, approached with tears in her eyes. Maya, we just received an anonymous donation. $5 million. The center is saved. Maya felt the room spinning. $5 million. Anonymous. Her mind immediately went to Marcus, but she pushed the thought away. It couldn't be him, could it? There's more, Janet continued, handing her an envelope. This came with the donation. It's addressed to you personally. With trembling hands, Maya opened the envelope. Inside was a simple note written in handwriting she recognized, for the woman who showed a stranger kindness when he needed it most. The children are lucky to have you. You'll never know how much you changed one broken man's life. Forever grateful, M. Maya's knees gave out, and she sank into a nearby chair. The man she thought she knew, the homeless man she'd fallen in love with, had just saved everything she cared about. But before she could process this revelation fully, her phone rang. It was her friend Jessica, a journalist. Maya, you need to turn on the news right now. Channel 7. With shaking hands, Maya grabbed the remote and turned on the television in the center's main room. What she saw made her gasp. Marcus Wellington was standing at a podium surrounded by reporters. But he looked different. Gone was the polished businessman. His hair was disheveled, his eyes red-rimmed, and he looked like he'd lost 20 pounds. Ladies and gentlemen, Marcus began, his voice hoarse with emotion. I'm here today to announce that I'm stepping down as CEO of Wellington Enterprises and donating my entire fortune to charity. The room of reporters erupted in shocked murmurs. Furthermore, Marcus continued, I want to publicly apologize to someone who showed me what real love looks like. Someone who cared for a stranger without asking for anything in return. Someone whose heart I broke because I was too afraid to be vulnerable. Maya's hands flew to her mouth. He was talking about her. On national television. 2 months ago, I pretended to be homeless because I wanted to know if anyone could love me for who I really am, not what I own. It was selfish and cruel, and I hurt the most genuine person I've ever met. Maya Thompson, if you're watching this, I want you to know that the man you fell in love with was the real me. Stripped of everything, vulnerable and alone, desperate for connection. That's who I really am. Tears were streaming down Maya's face now. Around her, the children and staff of the community center had gathered, watching in stunned silence. I've spent my whole life hiding behind money, afraid that no one would love the real me. But you did, Maya. You loved me when you thought I had nothing. And I threw that away because I was a coward. Marcus paused, his voice breaking. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. I know I've lost the only thing that ever mattered to me, but I want you to know that loving you taught me how to be human. And even if I can never have you back, I want to spend the rest of my life trying to be the man you believed I could be. The press conference ended with Marcus walking away from the podium, ignoring the shouted questions from reporters. Maya sat in stunned silence, her heart pounding so hard she could hear it in her ears. Tyler tugged at her sleeve. Miss Maya, why are you crying? Are you sad? Maya looked down at the little boy she'd been fighting to help, surrounded by all the other children whose futures had just been secured by the man she'd fallen in love with. No, sweetie, she whispered. I think I'm the opposite of sad. That evening, Maya found herself walking to the street corner where it all began. She didn't know why she went there, but something pulled her back to that spot. To her shock, Marcus was there. Not pretending to be homeless this time, but sitting on the same piece of cardboard, wearing jeans and a simple t-shirt. When he saw her, he looked up with eyes full of hope and terror. Maya, he breathed. I didn't think you'd come. I saw the news, she said softly, maintaining her distance. You gave it all away. Not all of it, Marcus replied, standing slowly. I kept enough to live simply. To start over. I thought maybe I could volunteer at places like your community center. Learn what it really means to help people. Maya studied his face, seeing exhaustion and sincerity in equal measure. Why, Marcus? Why give up everything? Because you were right, he said, his voice cracking. Love isn't built on lies. And the only thing I ever loved was what I had with you. If I can't have that, then nothing else matters. They stood in silence for a long moment, the weight of everything between them. The donation, Maya said finally. That was you. Those kids need that center. And you need to save it. I couldn't stand by and watch your dream die because of my mistakes. Maya felt tears welling up again. Marcus, what you did, lying to me, testing me, it broke my heart. I know, he whispered. And I'll regret it for the rest of my life. But Maya continued, stepping closer. What you just did, giving up everything, saving the center, that tells me who you really are. Marcus looked up, hardly daring to hope. "The man I fell in love with," Maya said, reaching out to touch his face gently, "was vulnerable and lonely and desperate for real connection." "That's exactly who you are right now, isn't it?" Marcus leaned into her touch, closing his eyes. "I'm terrified, Maya. I've never been this exposed, this real. I don't know how to be anything but broken right now." "Good," Maya said, surprising him. "Broken is honest. Broken is real. I can work with broken." She stepped closer, her voice barely a whisper. "But if we do this, if we try again, it has to be built on truth. Complete truth. No more lies, no more tests, no more games." "Never again," Marcus promised, his voice fierce with sincerity. "Maya, I swear to you, if you give me another chance, I'll spend every day proving that I'm worthy of your love." Maya looked into his eyes, seeing past the fear to the man underneath. The man who'd sat on this very corner, desperate and alone. The man who'd just given up a fortune for a chance at real love. "One condition," she said. "Anything. We start completely over. I want to learn who Marcus really is, not Mark the homeless man, not Marcus the millionaire. Just Marcus. The real you." Marcus felt something break open in his chest, a relief so profound it brought tears to his eyes. "Hi," he said, extending his hand with a trembling smile. "I'm Marcus Wellington. I just lost everything I thought mattered, and I'm absolutely terrified about what comes next." Maya smiled through her tears and took his hand. "Hi, Marcus. I'm Maya Thompson. I work with kids who've lost everything too, and I think I might be falling in love with someone brave enough to lose it all for the right reasons." As they stood there, hands clasped on the same street corner where their story began, Marcus realized something profound. He'd spent his entire life building walls to protect his heart, but Maya had taught him that the only way to truly live was to tear those walls down completely. 6 months later, Marcus was serving lunch at the community center, wearing a volunteer t-shirt that Maya had given him. His hair was longer now, his hands calloused from honest work, and his smile was real in a way it had never been before. "Mr. Marcus," Tyler called out, running up to him. "Will you read us a story after lunch?" "Of course, buddy," Marcus replied, ruffling the boy's hair. Maya watched from across the room, her heart full. The man she'd fallen in love with on that rainy morning had been real after all. It had just taken losing everything for him to find himself. That evening, as they walked home together from the center, Maya slipped her hand into Marcus's. "Any regrets?" she asked. Marcus stopped walking and turned to face her, his eyes shining with a contentment he'd never known existed. "Just one," he said. Maya's heart skipped. "What's that?" Marcus smiled, the same vulnerable smile she'd fallen in love with on a rain-soaked sidewalk. "I regret that it took me 35 years to learn that the only wealth that matters is having someone who loves you for your heart, not your bank account." Maya stood on her tiptoes and kissed him softly. "Well then, Mr. Wellington, you're the richest man I know." As they continued walking hand in hand, Marcus realized that he'd finally found what he'd been searching for his entire life. Not in the boardrooms or bank accounts, but in the simple act of being loved for exactly who he was, broken pieces and all.